What if the secret to success wasn't just talent or hard work, but unshakable confidence? Welcome to Grasp Confidence, the podcast where visionary thought leaders, speakers, and entrepreneurs unlock the mindset and strategies for lasting success. I'm your host, Tara LaFawn Gooch, CEO, two-time best-selling author, and international TEDx speaker, and I can't wait to help you step into the most powerful version of yourself. Let's dive in. Dr. Audrey Schnell is a trailblazer in personal development and transformation. With over 40 years of groundbreaking experience, renowned for her deep expertise, she has spent decades empowering individuals to break through their barriers and unlock their true potential. She has a unique ability to pinpoint the hidden roots of self-sabotage. Ooh, one of my favorite topics.
Oh, good.
And Audrey, welcome to the show. I'm excited to dive right in.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, let's just, start from the top.
Sure.
What is self-sabotage anyway? Because I've heard it before. I even have a past episode about self-sabotage, but I would love your personal definition and take on what that even is.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because I think what people really need to understand what it is before we can overcome it. And it's very common to hear, I just can't get out of my own way. And it really shouldn't be called self-sabotage. It should really be called self-survival because all of this comes from our primitive wiring for self-survival. And any change, and here's the kicker, even if it's change we want, is change and elicits that fear of the unknown. It's not really fear of success or fear of failure. It's just fear of the unknown that triggers this survival instinct, triggers our unconscious, and our primitive brain is, going to win because it's been around the longest. And it kicks in and we want the status quo, whatever it is, whether it's I went to the refrigerator for the salad and left with the Ben & Jerry's, or I knew I should be emailing my list, but I cleaned my house instead. All of those things, and they always, almost always, and can look so reasonable. Or we think, God, why didn't I do what I wanted to do? There must be something wrong with me. And, we get into self-doubt, which is a really sneaky form of self-sabotage. We get into shame and blame and failure mode, and which just leads to more failure. And instead of just problem solving and instead of just recognizing, I know where this is coming from, it's fear. What do I need to do? How do I get past this? How do I get out of survival mode and focused on moving forward? Easier said than done.
Yeah, you're right. Well, I'm just going to say this because I'm a pretty honest person. You called me out. How did you know? Were you here at my house last week when I was cleaning my house instead of doing the thing I've said I've been doing?
Yeah, no.
Let me tell you, I cleaned my whole house and it was sparkling and it was a little nice. I'm not going to lie, but I also have other things to do, and I know that was self-sabotage, especially now since you called me out on it.
Yeah, and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes we have to do something to get us moving, productive. But in general, when we're not doing what we know we should be doing or we know we need to be doing, you can 99.9% of the time pretty much assume, I'm in survival mode. We know when we avoid, we procrastinate. And it's not that everybody thinks we have ADHD these days because we live in such a distracting culture that we don't have the skills to deal with. I mean, I didn't grow up with this, and even people younger than me don't necessarily have the skills to avoid or combat this constant distraction. that we experience.
Wow. So a lot of people are hearing this right now and saying, oh my gosh, I didn't know I was self-sabotaging, right? So these are sneaky things. It's not, by the way, like you realize it before it happens usually. It's one of those things you waste a lot of time.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And there are ones that there's the layer that's obvious. Like I said, we know we were following a food plan, or we know we were working on our business plan, and we just couldn't get ourselves to do it. But that's the first layer, But then, and I know your audience is smart, or they wouldn't be your audience. Smart people actually have it a little harder, because we're even more clever about how we self-sabotage. And that can look like self-doubt, or coming to the wrong conclusion about something. And I'll give you an example. I had a potential client, older woman who was in fitness career her whole life and wanted to start a group program. She'd been trying to start this group program for 3 years. And fear, and she knew it was fear, stopped her from launching it. To the point when she came to me, she was like, well, maybe I just don't really want it, and that's why I've not done it. Which it was so obvious to me that wasn't the case at all. It was just another form of self-doubt, the wrong conclusion. Instead of, or I'm too old, that's another good one. That's really self-sabotage, or, the self-doubt just rears its ugly head, and we don't recognize it for what it is. It's trying to keep us safe. It's our friend. It's not our enemy, but we need to call it what it is. And it's just trying to protect us, not keep us from moving forward.
That's right. It's a survival mechanism, right? So
exactly.
We don't have the saber-toothed tigers chasing us right now.
Oh no.
We don't have a ton of external threats. We do, but it's like our ancestors had.
Right.
And but that's still kicked in. It's still
And it's worse for us, because then we're not just in survival mode. Then we start analyzing our survival mode. So after the zebra's done running from the lion, the zebras don't hang around the water cooler going, I really screwed that up. I should have run left instead of right last time. I'm just so lucky that the lion didn't get me. No, when they're done, not us. We will spend a lot of time and energy berating ourselves for what we did or didn't do.
And it leads to so much wasted opportunity. It also leads to shame.
Oh, lots of shame.
It leads to shame. It leads to apathy. It leads to just a loss of human potential.
Absolutely. And I think that's what saddens me the most. I think that's what sort of got me going in this direction, even, was, just this vision of for myself and for others, just, seeing a gravestone that read, "This is so sad because she had so much potential." And it is a waste. It's sad. And the world doesn't need right now more people giving up.
No, it doesn't. And, on our deathbed, I would rather look back and say, I'm glad I tried. I'm glad I tried this. I'm glad I did brave things. I'm glad I got scared and jumped and did it anyway. I'm glad I did that thing. I'm never going to say, I wish I wouldn't have tried so much. I don't think, has anybody ever said that? I don't think anybody's ever said that, right?
I know. And sometimes I like to just, I don't know, maybe I'm just a product of the 60s, but I like to question everything. And, you always hear this. Nobody on their deathbed says, oh, gee, I wish I would have worked harder. Well, maybe I would say that, maybe I want to, work hard. Does it mean I sacrifice my friends, my family? No, but I think we want inherently to live up to our full potential, to do the things that scare us, that maximize our growth, that bring us the most joy or expansion. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. Well, it's this life, it's a gift, right? And I've just seen it too much in my own life,
Yeah.
as well as the lives of others, to not take it for granted anymore.
No.
It comes to a point where you realize that life is such a finite gift, an opportunity every single day to do something impactful with it. Just a couple of years ago, if you would have told me that I'm going to share my story, I'm going to write books, I'm going to have a podcast, I'd be like thinking you're a crazy person, right?
Yeah, no, I know we're capable of so much more than we think we are. We have we have a second gear. We have 4-wheel drive inside that can get us through things we didn't think we could get through. And having that appreciation, I just figured, this hit me one day, that a bad day I'm 68, almost 68, a bad day at 68 might look pretty good at 85. I'm thinking, maybe I should stop complaining and not just feel grateful, but appreciate. I can walk out on my deck and look at the river and the trees. I'm in nature. I may not always have this. So I thought, I better stop complaining. And not, like I said, somehow appreciation and gratitude feel different to me. And not just feel grateful, but truly gratitude almost sounds like up here, but appreciate to me is down here. And I thought, I may not always have this. And that led me to, really thinking about appreciating the day. Any day above ground. I can't remember. Some old comedian said any day above ground is a good one.
It's true, right?
Yeah.
And it can be found in the most unlikely places. And it usually is. The deepest levels of gratitude are found in the most unlikely places that you may not have even appreciated before, that you couldn't even imagine, right? Because it gets deeper. And this is one of the things that I try to explain to people, and I'll be talking at length about gratitude in my next upcoming book. At length. I have several chapters just on gratitude. But what is amazing with it, it's the layers of the onion. You peel it back and you get deeper, and just it's a different level that you experience, to the point where if you practice it every day, which I always recommend people doing, that if you do this for 90 days, you won't even look recognizable. So it does have of course it's mental, right? We know, but it comes out in the physical as well. It almost is something you embody, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think this is where mind, body, science, spirituality really connect. And in fact, I have my clients right now, we do a 15-minute call every morning just to report our wins from the day before, because it's not just about gratitude. It's about shifting our focus. We're primed to look for what's wrong. Back to that survival instinct, because what's wrong will kill you. What's right won't. We're primed for the negative. And so anything that helps us move into the positive, what works, rewires our brain, changes our perspective, and confirmation bias. Then we start looking for what's right. And we keep looking for what's right. And that changes us at a spiritual, physical, biological, mental, brain, whatever you want to call it, neurological level. And it's so important. Everybody talks about transformation and rewiring. I think we need to talk about what that really means in a practical sense. And in a practical sense, I think it gets us out of survival mode into action, and action begets action. Movement begets movement. It's just, energy begets energy.
Absolutely. You were speaking my language, obviously, because you're talking about my GRASP method, right? Starting with gratitude. And then, of course, taking action is absolutely a part of that. But again, I want to talk about this embodying principle because I think that's pretty important too. It's not something that you do for the sake of doing to check off a box and say, I did this thing. It is a lifestyle change. It is something you embody, and it does transform you. And people, one of the criticisms I got from my first book was like, that's not possible. You can't go from your rock bottom point to where you are in 2 years and writing this book. And my challenge is that this is absolutely transformational if applied daily. Like, it's something that you walk in. Again, it's an embodiment. And then at the end of that year or whatever time later, it may be a different time for you. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you can be a transformed person. This is not a joke.
No, it's not a joke. And it doesn't mean, you're at a 0 right now and I'm a 10 in 2 minutes. But it means I just keep moving in that direction. You don't go from the bottom rung of a ladder to the top of the ladder in one fell swoop. You go step by step, and that's what we need to do. And I often think, there's 2 ways to look at that, but I often think that we think things are impossible that aren't actually impossible. That I heard this from one of my coaches, I think it was Dr. Ben Hardy, who said this.
Yeah, love him.
It's impossible unless. So we were just talking about books, for example, writing books, right? So is it impossible that you could sell 1 million books? Well, it maybe, but maybe if you were on Oprah tomorrow, it wouldn't be impossible.
Right. Figure out how to make it possible.
And sometimes it's actually easier to go for what seems impossible because there are fewer routes to impossible goals than there are to easy ones, for example, if you just, and I think this is one of the example he uses, if you want to just learn how to play tennis, there's probably 1 million tennis pros that you could go to. But if you want to become a pro tennis player, there's probably a lot fewer coaches that can take you there. And that's a really simplistic, very clear example. But I think it's a lens worth looking through when we think something is impossible. It obviously, some things we think are impossible aren't. And again, there's 2 schools of thought. Some will say, just go for a realistic goal so that you can hit it. But sometimes realistic goals are not very exciting.
That's exactly right. Yeah, especially if we're talking about, again, my audience who are high achieving leaders, high performers. Yeah. These people want the big goals. They want the big aspirations. That's why they listen to the show, so they can get clears on how to get there.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean we don't. So I'll give you another example today. And my wins call with my clients, one client had what she considered a small win. She's, stayed on her food plan, got in her movement.
That's great.
Which she said normally she might have blown off. And she said, well, it's a small win. I'm like, no, first of all, it's a win. And second of all, just because something is easy doesn't mean we don't get credit for it. One person can get 100 on a test and had to study really hard. The other person aced it without studying. They're still 100. They're both 100. They're both wins. And sometimes I think we sell ourselves short by not counting all our wins, even when they're easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
It's such an important thing. So we learned first off that, gratitude has a transformative power.
Mhm.
It has been shown to rewire our brain. And it's not just a feel-good emotion or buzzword.
No,
This is actually a transformative thing.
it is.
It's a pathway to personal development, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But then we also talked about self-sabotage because we have self-sabotage. It can really hold us back. So
Mhm.
I'm curious from you, Audrey, can we combat self-sabotage behavior with gratitude? What do you think?
I think so. I would expand gratitude to also include small wins, grateful for everything. Because again, I'll talk from a science perspective first. Okay. What we want to do to get out of survival mode is get ourselves into our prefrontal cortex, get us into our thinking brain, our executive brain, which can make good decisions, can reason, can master our emotions, can control the panic, can tell Chicken Little, no, the sky's not falling, you're just having a panic attack. And so we do things that trigger that, right? It's no different than, because I call it the toddler brain. It's no different than when we distract a screaming 2-year-old with, no, I'm not going to give you the cookies, but here, play with this toy. We distract ourselves. We shift, and we behaviorally usually. And so the practice of gratitude is not just the gratitude itself. And this gets a little out there, but it's also at a meta level. It's the shift of going into gratitude, which can trigger our executive brain so that we're out of survival mode and we can think clearly. We have energy. We have reason. We have the ability to go, okay, I can't make this big step, but I can make this small step next. And that's why it's important, like for 2 reasons. One, gratitude gets us out of survival mode. Gratitude shifts our focus to what's right, which then leads to releasing better neurotransmitters, better hormones, everything. It's all the things are always easier to do when you feel good. It's just, what do we know? When you feel good, you're more likely to do the shit you want to do.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a very important practice. And I think the power of gratitude, again, comes from not just looking for things, but looking for things to be grateful for, things that are wins. One of the things I have my clients do is, create an evidence list. Go for the facts. What were your top biggest successes in life so far? And post them. Post them everywhere, because it's when we're at our lowest, when all we can think. I mean, I've had these times, I would imagine you, when all we can see is our failures. All we can see are the things that didn't work. And that takes us down the rabbit hole. And going into the bathroom and looking at our 10 biggest successes on the mirror immediately can shift us out of, oh, but I know everything feels like a failure right now, but here are the facts.
I love that. My friend Doug Thompson, he has a really good saying. He says, show me the receipts. So anytime like self-doubt kicks in or sabotage, and something says you can't do this, he says, show me the receipts. Where's the receipt that says I can't do this? And I like your evidence list is pretty cool. But I think that's important, right? Because we accomplish more than we think we do. I go again, high achievers go through this. We tend to gloss over things that we've done.
Yes.
This will be year 3 for me getting a book out.
Yeah.
For somebody who never wrote books before. And then I just kind of was like, okay, just writing another one. No, like take a step, acknowledge what you've done.
Yes.
So important. And remind yourself of it so that when self-doubt creeps in, you can say, I have an evidence list. Show me the receipts and proof that it says I can't do this, right?
Exactly. And it's like with Dan Sullivan, and I think Ben Hardy was on the book too, the gap versus the gain. We're so focused on where we're going that we forget how far we've actually come. So sometimes we do need to look in the rearview mirror, look back to look forward again, because we do, like I said, when it's easy, we don't give ourselves credit. Or when we've already done it. No, I don't get credit for that. Well, yeah, you do.
Yeah. It's powerful. It's a powerful reminder.
So we need that. We need the reminders.
We need the reminders because, like you said, going back earlier, we are inundated with distraction right now in this world. And our brains cannot keep up and process all of this inundation of information constantly. I mean, we have ads, we have our cell phone, we have a calendar or more. We have all of these things, and we can't keep it up, and we beat ourselves up, don't we? We just beat ourselves up.
Beat ourselves up, or we shut down because there are so many choices. We're on sensory overload. Again, that survival, all those F's, flight, fight, or freeze, and take your pick. None of them help us move forward. And it's easy. We're just inundated with social media, with phones. I mean, it used to be easy to shut everything off. I can remember going, 20, 30 years ago, we would go to our vacation house. There was no phone. There was no mail. There was nothing. Now, anybody can reach you in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot.
24/7. It's hard to shut off.
It is hard to shut off.
And it just feeds that survival mode.
It does. It feeds the survival mode. It gets you distracted, and it doesn't keep you anchored in that gratitude. But one of the things I've noticed is if that feels like a point for you, like it did for me, I'll be open and honest here, where you're on it way too much and you're on it too much. And you can easily look too. You can go to the phone data and see how many hours a day. And then you tell me that's not an addiction. And then I challenge anybody to get, don't have the social media on your phone just give it a week. Log in on your desktop if you have to. See how much better you feel. See how much more confident you feel. See how much more grateful you feel. Present-mindedness. Holy cow, it changed my life.
Oh, absolutely. Like there are, how they're like parent control so kids don't look at porn or something. There are actually programs out there that, I'll be honest, I use it, that block social media during the day. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. The program I use is called Freedom. I enable it in the morning, and I can't log on to Facebook. I can't log on to LinkedIn. I can't go to Amazon and shop. And it helps. It helps to have those extra. I am not above using anything that works.
Exactly. There's no shame in it, but just I think we all have to acknowledge it, that it is such an issue, because oh my gosh, it's almost 2 months for me now, Audrey, that I haven't had social media apps on my phone. Night and day difference in the level of like joy that I have present. I feel like my brain is on vacation.
Oh, doesn't that sound, it sounds wonderful, actually. And I know exactly what you mean. It's like, we need to take a break. We can't process it. We get overloaded. I get overloaded by it.
Yeah.
Should I try this? Should I try that? There's just so much out there, and it's available 24/7.
Yes.
Where's he from?
I was even telling my husband, I said, I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to the beach and have a vacation because my brain's actually on vacation. I feel like I'll be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
right? And not think about the past or the future. Just be anchored in that moment.
Yeah. And it's so rejuvenating to just be present. And that's another practice, when my clients or I, start to get into survival mode, start to get that anxiety, start to get that worry, to just remind myself right now, nothing is wrong. Right now, don't need to call 911. Nobody's bleeding. Nothing's happened right now. Everything is okay. And just relax into the moment. What did I hear? I don't remember who said it, but something like fear and faith both require believing in something you haven't seen.
Ooh, good perspective. That is so true, right? It's a choice. It's a choice to stay in fear or live in faith. And I think what better ending to this powerful conversation and a call to action to everybody right now. This is this serious thing that we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're more technologically connected than we have ever been before in human history. And people are suffering from loneliness at record rates.
Yeah.
It is not a coincidence to me. So I think a call to action today is some disconnection and reconnection with what actually matters. Disconnect from the distraction, reconnect with the things that matter, like yourself, like your family, spending time in nature, whatever connection means to you. Go connect with something real today. Look up, get off the screens, and go get confidence. Audrey, any last words for our audience today?
Yes. Just a quick one. One of the best things you can do for yourself to be able to do all the things we've talked about, get good sleep. You can't do anything when you're tired and worn out.
That's right. I love
Go
that.
to bed.
I love that. Go to bed. Where can everybody find you, Audrey?
They can find me at audreyschnell.com or email me at audrey@audreyschnellphd.com.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on this show. And thank you for everyone who tuned into this episode of Grasp Confidence Podcast. We will see you on the next show. Guys, don't forget to leave a review. It helps us so much. We appreciate each one of you. See you next time.
Mm-hmm.